You're now listening to All Hogs Sports, covering all Arkansas Razorback sports, such as football, basketball, baseball, and much more. Now, here's your host for today's show, Sam Stimson.
The Arkansas Razorbacks in back-to-back seasons are playing in the Sweet 16. On Thursday, March 24th, 6:09 Central Time on CBS, the Arkansas Razorbacks, the 4 seed in the West region, take on the 1 seed in the West region, Gonzaga. The Gonzaga Bulldogs are the favorite to win it all right now. They were the 1 seed overall coming into the tournament. Right now, they're currently favored by 9 points. It started at 8.5. You'll probably see it move a little bit before game time. I really have no clue which way it's going to move. Now, this game is in San Francisco at the Chase Center, where the Golden State Warriors play. For what it's worth, Musselman was not the coach of the Warriors when the Warriors, before this, did not play at Chase Center. But anyway, previewing this matchup
versus
the Gonzaga Bulldogs. This Gonzaga team is really deep. They have so many different playmakers on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. It's easy to think why they're the national championship favorite as of right now. According to KenPom, they have the number 1 offense in the nation. If you watch their offense, they're fast. They love to push tempo. They easily score 100+ in a lot of their games in conference, in the West Coast Conference, because they push the ball so much and they're not afraid to use that athleticism that they have over teams to their advantage. Now, that won't be necessarily as huge against Arkansas, but they still have a lot of athletes on that team. On offense, they're number 1 in effective field goal percentage at 59.3%. They like to score a lot of twos. That's where the most amount of points within their offense comes from. And lucky for Arkansas's defense is actually best at guarding twos. I'll talk about that later. Now, there's so many different players you can start with, but the leader and the soul of this team, I think, is Drew Timme. When you look at the first half against Memphis, Timme was basically a non-factor for the Bulldogs, and they were trailing for most of that first half, especially at the end. Then you look at the second half, and Drew Timme exploded. He had 25 points against Memphis. He had 32 points against Georgia State. He's one of the most elite post players in college basketball, sitting at 6'10", 235, playing a lot of time at power forward, and then a quarter of the time Gonzaga has at center. His field goal percentage is insanely effective at 59.2%. Arkansas will double team and trap in certain situations, but not often because of how good this Gonzaga team is around him. Now, a lot of talk has been around Chet Holmgren, and I understand why. 7 foot 195, and you'll see a lot of people say, oh, he's not good because he's super skinny or whatever. That's just a really lazy take. Chet is one of the best defensive players within college basketball because of his length. He's 8th in the nation in blocking percentage. In true shooting percentage, he is 2nd within the country. 14.2 points per game, 9.8 rebounds. For size at 7 foot 195, he moves around the court really well. He also has a 3-ball game. He can really shoot the ball, dribble it well, make smart passes, and play good defense, which is why a lot of people have him as the projected overall number 1 or number 2 pick. I think right now he's favored to go 2nd, but that'll change a lot. However, within his last 3 games, he's had a slump from three-point land. He's 0 for 9 within the last 5 games, which extends 3, 1 to the regular season, and then 2 in that WCC Conference Championship where Gonzaga won. He's 1 for 14 since those, so for him to be in a slump would be good for Arkansas. If he wakes up from 3, that's going to be really tough to guard because of the length in his shot. I mean, you'll kind of see it with Vanover. The best comparison I have for this, because many Arkansas fans are familiar with it, was last season, especially in their non-conference stretch. When Vanover was shooting those threes, a lot of teams had trouble guarding him, especially at the mid-major level. And obviously Chet is, a way better than Vanover. He's projected number 2 in the draft. But I'm just comparing the how it's hard to guard somebody that tall with that length. Not, the play style of each. I'm not saying that Connor is Chet or Chet. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying that the way that long shot with the length overpowers teams, especially those who struggle with height. And Arkansas really has a 6'10 center in Jalen Williams who plays, and nobody else gets those minutes. Like I said, that length, though, will present issues for Arkansas. Arkansas, though, against Chet, your number one option is to get him into foul trouble. You look at Arkansas's game versus Walker Kessler, another one of the top centers here looking at the NBA draft. Arkansas was able to get Kessler to foul out of the game in overtime, and Arkansas won that game. Kessler had, I think, 8 blocks, double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, and Arkansas somehow found a way to win that game, but a lot of times what they did is they attacked his body. You know, if you make Chet play more defense with his body, it'll be better for Arkansas. Arkansas just needs to play physical and make him defend and get those fouls. I think the main thing when you look at a dominant center is how can you get him into foul trouble. That's how teams have stopped Kofi Coburn of Illinois and many of the other ones within the last few years, Hunter Dickinson on Michigan and such. You look at Memphis's, though, points each time they got the ball versus when Chet was on the court, in which he wasn't, significantly higher when he's off the court. So the main thing Arkansas needs to do is get him to the bench, and the way that's going to happen is foul trouble. Now, seeing some time in the backcourt for this team is Anton Watson, 6'8" power forward. He subs in a lot for Chet or Timme. He gets about a little less than 50% of the time at power forward, according to KenPom, for this team. Now, the front and backcourt for this team, though, is absolutely loaded. You look at this guard play for Gonzaga, and it's one of the best I've seen within the last few years. Andrew Nembhard, I don't think enough people are talking about how well he's been playing this whole season for Gonzaga, but more specifically, how well he played within the last few games. He would play almost all their time at point guard. He doesn't foul that often. Gonzaga doesn't have to worry about working in multiple point guards within the system because Nembhard's going to play. He's an elite guy. He sees the floor really well. Smart is what I really take off when you look at the passes he makes. 5.8 assists per game. Runs a lot of pick and roll action with Chet Holmgren, which makes sense. A lot of 1 through 5 switches there. 12 points. He's really the engine of this offense. And, if you could stop the engine of a car, you can stop the car, right? So I think this presents a tough battle. I'll talk about more matchups later because he's 6'5", tall point guard, kind of like Jalen Tate last year. And you saw Tate taking a lot of taller defenders away for Arkansas, making different ISO and mismatches. Arkansas will be faced with that task, though, on defense against Andrew Nembhard. Now shooting forward for Gonzaga, starting as Julian Strother, 6'7", shooting forward. He's 37% from 3, gets a lot of screen action off catch and shoots, averaging 11.8 points per game. Another guard for them starting at the 2 spot normally is Rasir Bolton. He averages 11.3 points per game, 47% from 3. You'll see him work a lot of times drive and kick, shoot from 3, screen action, shoot from 3. Gonzaga likes to set a lot of screens, and when you have guys like Timme, Chet, who can roll the basket, make easy layups, dunks, and such, it makes sense. Other guys you'll see in the rotation, Nolan Hickman and Hunter Salas, 2 freshmen, highly graded, coming out of high school. Obviously less experience there, and they're not going to be as good defenders like a Nembhard has been playing college basketball. I think this is his 4th season. He started at Florida, and Musselman actually played him when he was at Florida. I think they played him in the first round of the tournament, and then Nembhard played Arkansas that year too. Defensively, Gonzaga, it doesn't get anything easier for this team. 43% effective field goal percentage, and your average is going to be around 50. That's number 1 in D1. Defensively, Gonzaga doesn't force a lot of steals, but they are fantastic on the rebounding side of the basketball. And when you have guys like Chet, Timme, I know I'm just saying their name a ton, but they've been that dominant for Gonzaga, getting boards, working the post, and such. They really don't foul a lot and send teams to the line. Out of all their opponents, 15.7% of all of the opponents' points have come from the free throw line. Arkansas's number is around 22%. So again, Arkansas is going to have to get fouls and such. Block percentage at 13.7%. They like to slow down teams and force their turnovers a lot more so on blocks than anything else. Arkansas, though, has to be wary of the foul trouble. And I know you'll talk about refs and everything like that. It's kind of out of everyone's control for Mark Few and Eric Musselman. I mean, Few's built an absolute dynasty up there in Spokane with this Gonzaga team. I'm talking about a team from the West Coast Conference here, and you would have thought I'm talking about Duke or something. He's done a really good job with that team. 2 elite coaches facing off in this game, but one thing they can't control is the refs and how they're going to call the game. Gonzaga, though, against Memphis, you obviously saw that I think Gonzaga didn't get their first foul the second half till like Memphis had 6. And I didn't really watch much of that because I was watching more the ending, and I didn't see the foul part. But from what I've heard and such off Twitter takes, it seems like Gonzaga, surely they can force fouls and such within the WCC and such. Arkansas can't control the refs though. You got to play to your ability, and at the end of the day, it's hard to blame refs, I think, for losses just in any sport. The only time I really don't do that is the Auburn football game, but hey, we're not going to go there. Mainly though, Arkansas against this Gonzaga team, like I said, physical, got to hustle down the court. When you look at Gonzaga's losses this season, they lost 81-84 to Duke, 82-91 Alabama, and 57-67 against St. Mary's on the road. Mainly those teams, 2 of them scoring 84-91. That's something Gonzaga has not let up this season, and the other one, Gonzaga really struggled to score. I think the easier route for Arkansas is going to be more of that, where they dictate the pace, and there's not that much scoring because you looked at how Arkansas kind of grinded out a win against a team like New Mexico State. Obviously, New Mexico State nowhere near the level Gonzaga is, but you kind of get what I'm saying when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Arkansas has to get off to a good start and play to their matchups. Defensively, I think you'll see Williams play on mainly Timme and Chet, because the main difference is, Chet being 7 foot. Nobody on Arkansas is really near that. Kamani's 6'7", Jalen's 6'10". I do think you'll see Kamani in the event that you see some foul trouble within Tony and some other guys. Tony, I think, guards Timme part of the game, Nembhard. It's really tough to see. And the thing is, Arkansas's not going to make a game plan here. And okay, guys, this is the game plan for the rest of the game. Regardless of what happens, this is what we're sticking with, because you can't do that. And you saw Arkansas last season against Baylor, the eventual national champions. Baylor at 1 seed at the time, Arkansas facing another 1 seed here, and how Baylor just started off so good. And then Arkansas eventually made it a 3-point game, but they just weren't able to overcome the deficit that they created for themselves overall. In that game, JD fouled out. So again, limiting your foul trouble here, you want to have guys like JD, Jalen playing those 30-plus minutes, and then Tony and Amude can always give you 40-plus the way that they're playing on the wing. You'll see Amude guarding guys like Strothier, more of Bolton, guys like JD there, Devo. It's really going to be a team effort on defense. I think a lot of people are, obsessed with the idea of, okay, this guy's going to guard this guy for this. That's not going to be the case. So Arkansas is going to have to, flood the strong side in certain scenarios. A lot of help defense will be played out, and the main thing is you've got to close out when you've got good shooting teams. You don't want to give them the space that they've gotten against other teams, because you look at their record and they've won 28 games with only 3 losses. Now, as you know, with Arkansas, they're a very defensive-minded team. KenPom comes in at number 14th in the nation, 47th in 2-point percentage. This is huge for beating a team potentially like Gonzaga. I'll get into my prediction later. But if Arkansas wants to have a chance to get an upset here, they have to defend the 2-pointer well, as that's what Gonzaga really favors to. And Arkansas has defended it well this season, which is huge. They force a lot of turnovers based on their active hand defensive philosophy. When you see Gonzaga bring up the ball up the court, you'll see Arkansas already has their hands out. I mean, this is a team that practices defense with bricks in their hand. Rebounding and pinching out here is huge. Pinching out on free throws, something that Musselman has worked a lot. You don't want to, give them any extra rebounds that you don't need to. Again, here with rebounding comes limiting Timme and Chet, their ability to crash the boards, boxing out, and such. Really, the main thing for Arkansas is they got to change and switch on defense. Arkansas can't defend the same way the whole game. They're going to have to take different sides of the defender, the weak, the strong side, because Mark Few is such a good coach that he's going to change that up. They're going to throw a lot of different looks at Arkansas if things are working and even if things aren't working. This is 2 really well-coached teams with a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. They're going to be able to make adjustments